Welcome everyone. In this video, I would like to talk about the newest 5-star character, Hu TAO, the 77th director of the Wansheng Funeral Parlor. But before we continue, please leave a like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you'll see our future videos. Now let's get on with the video. First, let's talk about her talents. Hu TAO's normal attack, Spear of Wansheng, has these multipliers. Hu TAO's normal attack also has the highest multiplier of all the polearm users at the moment, followed by Xiangling, then Zhongli, and lastly Xiao. And that is because Hu TAO has the lowest base attack compared to every character in the game, even lower than Barbarous. And the reason for that is her elemental skill. Her elemental skill basically converts her normal, charged, and plunge attacks into pyro, and gives additional attack bonus based on max HP. However, the additional attack bonus cannot exceed 400% of Hu TAO's base attack, which is Hu TAO's base attack plus her weapon's base attack. This also increases Hu TAO's resistance to interruptions and cannot be overridden by any elemental weapon infusion. Her charge attacks also apply Blood Blossom effect to the enemies hit. Enemies hit to the effect will take pyro damage every 4 seconds. Her elemental burst deals pyro damage in a large AoE, and if Hu TAO is below or equal to 50% of her max HP, then the damage and HP regen is increased. In leveling up your talent, I would recommend prioritizing your elemental skill, then level up your normal attack, and then finally level up your elemental burst. Her first Ascension talent increases all party members, except Hu TAO, crit rate by 12% for 8 seconds when her elemental skill ends. Hu TAO's 4th Ascension talent increases her pyro damage bonus by 33% when her HP is 50% of her max HP or lower. Her passive talent makes it so that when Hu TAO cooks a dish perfectly, she has an 18% chance to receive an additional suspicious dish of the same type. Now on to Hu TAO's constellation. Her C1 makes it so that when Hu TAO uses her elemental skill, for the whole duration of her elemental skill, which is 9 seconds, her charged attacks will not consume stamina. That means you can just spam charged attacks while her elemental skill is active, without worrying about your stamina. Her C2 increases the Blood Blossom effect damage by 10% of Hu TAO's max HP. This also makes it so that her elemental burst can apply the Blood Blossom effect onto enemies. Her C3 increases the level of her elemental skill by 3. Her C4 makes it so when Hu TAO defeats an enemy with the Blood Blossom effect, all allies in the party except Hu TAO will have their crit rate increased by 12% for 15 seconds. Her C5 increases the level of her elemental burst by 3. Her C6 allows Hu TAO to cheat death when she suffers a lethal strike or when her HP drops below 25% of her max HP. And additionally, for the next 10 seconds, she gains 200% physical and elemental resistance, 100% crit rate, meaning all her attacks, elemental skill, and burst will always be a critical hit, and resistance to interruption is greatly increased every 60 seconds. This essentially means that your C6 Hu TAO can become a raid boss. Now let's talk about the possible artifact sets for Hu TAO in no particular order. 4-set Crimson Witch, the set that I would recommend everyone to farm and strive for, because this set increases pyro damage bonus by 15% and an additional 7.5 when she casts her elemental skill. And this set also increases melt and vaporize damage by 15%, which is very good for Hu TAO, because as a pyro character, you would want to team her up with a cryo or hydro character, because melt and vaporize reaction is the strongest elemental reaction at the moment, and this set further amplifies that reaction. You can find the Crimson Witch set in the Hidden Palace of Zhou formula. 2-set Crimson Witch, 2-set Noblesse. This set increases pyro damage by 15% and elemental burst by 20%. Noblesse set can be found in the Clear Pool and Mountain Cavern. Crimson Witch set can be found in the Hidden Palace of Zhou formula. 2-set Gladiator, 2-set Crimson Witch. This set increases attack by 18% and pyro damage bonus by 15%. Gladiator set can be dropped by the elite bosses, weekly bosses, and on chamber clear rewards. 2-set Gladiator, 2-set Noblesse. This set increases attack by 18% and elemental burst by 20%. 4-set Gladiator. This set increases attack by 18%, and if the wielder uses a sword, claymore, or polearm, normal attack damage is increased by 35%. Now I don't recommend this set because this only increases normal attack damage, but it is one of the possible artifact sets that Hu Tao can use. 4-set Retracing Bolide. This set increases the shield strength by 35%, but only the wielder of the set will gain the shield strength bonus. And when you are protected by a shield, normal and charge attack is increased by 40%. This set is also pretty good with Hu Tao. The only downside is that you have to constantly have a shield or your damage will drop off. Now with those artifacts in mind, you may ask, can't I just go for the set that you recommend the most, which is the Crimson Witch set? Yes you can. But the 4-set effect may be important. There is a much more important thing, that is, the golden ratio. Now I will not regurgitate, so I recommend looking at 1010's video about the golden ratio. Link will be in the description below. So basically, the golden ratio is 210% attack, 70% crit rate, and 140% crit damage. You have to aim for these stats, or at least strive to get closer to it, because having the optimal main stat and substats on your artifact is more important than the set effects. Now onto the weapons. Let's start with the 5 stars. Staff of Homa. This staff is the best weapon compared to all the staff that we currently have in the game. And this is perfect for Hu Tao because the HP increase by 20% at Refinement rank 1 helps her elemental skill a lot. And not only that, it provides a bonus attack based on 0.8% of the wielder's max HP, and the further increase of 1% when the HP is less than 50%. This weapon's secondary stat is also crit damage, which helps you strive for the golden ratio. Primordial Jade Winged Spear. This weapon is also very good with Hu Tao because of its high base attack and an easy to access passive ability. This weapon's secondary stat is crit rate, which helps you strive for the golden ratio. Skyward Spine. This weapon has a high base attack and a secondary stat of energy recharge, which is only good if you can achieve the golden ratio without having crit rate or crit damage as a secondary stat. It does have crit rate on the passive, but you need refinement levels to increase it, and that is very expensive. Vortex Vanquisher. This weapon gives a lot of attack percent buff, which is not ideal for Hu Tao because her elemental skill attack bonus is based around HP, and you would want a shielder on your team to maximize the passive ability of this weapon. If you have any 5-star weapon, I usually do recommend using those because the sheer amount of base attack that a 5-star weapon can give can make it so it becomes a better option than running a 4-star. But with Hu Tao's kit, it might be different this time. Lithic Spear. This spear is good for Hu Tao because the passive ability of the spear makes it so whoever wields this weapon gains 7% attack and 3% crit rate that stacks up to 4 times for every character that hails from Liyue. And Hu Tao counts towards the stack, so you'll only need 3 more to get the maximum effect of the passive ability of this weapon. Dragon's Bane is only a great weapon for Hu Tao if you can get the golden ratio without relying on the weapon's secondary stat and passive ability. And if you plan to run a melt or vaporize comp, this weapon has elemental mastery that increases elemental reaction damage, and its passive ability leans towards vaporized team comps. Blackleaf Pole. This weapon is great for Hu Tao because it gives crit damage as secondary stat, which helps you get to the golden ratio, and its passive ability gives you attack percent when you defeat an enemy at maximum of 3 stacks, which is never bad. Deathmatch. This weapon is also great for Hu Tao because it gives crit rate as secondary stat, which helps you get to the golden ratio, and its passive ability increases attack percent and defense percent by 16 if there are 2 or more enemies. If there is only 1, your attack percent is then increased by 24% at Refinement rank 1. Now I will not cover these weapons, Crescent Pike, Prototype Star Glitter, Favonius Lance, Dragon Spine Spear, and the Royal Spear because I do not think these weapons are good for Hu Tao, to the point where I could even recommend these 3 stars instead. Black Tassel. This 3-star weapon is the only polearm with an HP secondary stat that goes up to 46.9%. You do not have to worry about that low base attack because with the HP secondary stat, when Hu Tao casts her elemental skill, she will gain attack percent bonus based on her max HP. You also do not have to worry about the 400% attack bonus cap on Hu Tao's skill because 354, which is Black Tassel's base attack at level 90, and 94, which is Hu Tao's base attack at level 80, added together is 448. Multiply that by 400% is 1792. Then divide that by Hu Tao's elemental skill max HP multiplier at level 6 of 5.06% of max HP, and you get 35,415. That is the HP where the 400% attack bonus cap reaches its peak, and I don't think you can reach that HP if you are striving for the golden ratio. So I think this 3-star weapon is good for Hu Tao. Another 3-star weapon is the White Tassel, which also has a low base attack, but that is not that important because of what I said earlier. This weapon also has crit rate, which helps you get the golden ratio, and its passive ability makes it so your normal attack damage is increased by 48% at Refinement 5. Do take note that this does constrict your gameplay by being good only when you use your normal attacks. Hu Tao rewards you by switching off of her and doing things with your team by giving your entire team a crit rate buff when her elemental skill ends. Unlike others, like Ganyu, if you switch to your teammates and do stuff with them, you will be sacrificing shooting charge shots. Another example is Xiao. You can't switch off of him when his elemental burst is still active, or you will lose your elemental burst, which has a cooldown of 18 seconds and requires 70 energy to cast. You wouldn't wanna waste that. But Hu Tao, on the other hand, can just wait out the cooldown of her elemental skill. Not switching off of Hu Tao when her elemental skill is on cooldown is actually a bad idea. Hu Tao relies heavily on her elemental skill to do damage because without the attack bonus on her elemental skill, she lacks the attack stat to get to the golden ratio. But that doesn't mean this hinders her. As I've stated earlier, she buffs her team when her elemental skill ends. Hu Tao will never die by just casting her elemental skill. I've tested this. Here's the clip. With this knowledge, shield characters are highly recommended to be paired up with Hu Tao, especially because she has talents that rewards her for having less than 50% of her max HP. When her elemental skill is casted, her attack speed on her charge attacks are significantly increased, as shown in the clip. So I highly recommend spamming charge attacks when her elemental skill is active to take advantage of that mechanic. I also highly recommend Diona because her shield reduces stamina consumption. That means while spamming charge attacks, even after the elemental skill duration, you will still have a lot of stamina at your disposal. While on the topic of charge attacks, you should cancel your charge attacks by jumping after you've seen the drill animation that she does, for this will allow you to scooch in another charge attack while the elemental skill is still active. That's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it and found it informational. I will be posting another video about my build, so if you wanna be notified of my future video, hit that notification bell, and if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment. And as always, thanks for watching.